Hey everybody.
Hi there.
Xin chào các bạn.
Yeah, and konnichiwa, my friend.
See? We're getting this going. If you're new here, my name is John.
And I'm Margaret.
Today, I have a little inspiration. I would like to talk about an Asian stereotype that has come up a couple of times in the last couple of weeks.
No comment.
And it has to do with money. The stereotype is Asians are cheap. Last week, someone told me I was cheap. A couple of days ago, someone else told me I was cheap.
You're just careful.
So we're going to talk a little bit about Asian versus American and how we manage money. And are Asians really cheap or are they just smart? So here are some examples of why people might think Asian people are cheap. One, they don't take a lot of vacations, but if they do, they cram a lot of people into a house, like 4 or 5 family into one house at the beach, or 5 or 10 people into one hotel room at the beach. Asian bargain a lot. If you haven't dealt with an Asian before, especially in big cities like New York, but Asian bargain a lot. Ever tried to go and buy a car with an Asian or try to sell one to an Asian? But that's a cultural thing because everybody in Asia bargain. And then I know this is true for a fact that they would drive to 2 or 3 different gas stations or 2 or 3 different stores to save a couple cents or a couple dollars. These examples are just a generalization. I don't think it applies to every Asian, and I don't think it applies to every scene. So, you know, those are just typical Asian stereotype examples.
For this next one, I feel like I need to make a disclaimer that these do not apply to all Americans and they do not apply to myself. Growing up, we really did a lot of those things that he was just talking about, which I think are kind of interesting because I know it may be stereotypic of them more, but I can't tell you how many times we went to a whole different area of town simply to save a few cents on gas. Anyway, so all that to say, don't think that all these that he's about to say apply to me. Because they don't. I grew up very frugal, or as you would call it, smart. We were smart growing up.
For me, when you think of Americans, I believe that a lot of Americans live in the moment. They live for today. They don't care about tomorrow. What they make today, they spend today. For example, they take 2 or 3 vacations a year to different areas, you know, not just the beach, but to different areas of the world. Americans typically don't plan for the futures. They have mortgages, they have car payments, they have credit card bills. They spend money that they don't have. And I feel like a lot of Americans, especially people my age, who just graduated, who just got a job, like to be flashy. What I mean by that is a brand new car after you graduate because you start making money. Well, that's a payment on the car for 5 years.
Probably a lot more than that.
They like new cars, they like big houses. There's really no saving for tomorrow. And the biggest thing, which Margaret can relate to, is they do not wait for sales. They want it and they want it now. We just had this discussion yesterday.
I'm actually a very, very frugal American.
You don't have to defend yourself. It seems a little guilty when you keep having to defend yourself. So on the Asian side, we tend to live for the future. We save a lot of money. True or false?
Very true.
They try to save, I don't know if it's an accurate percentage, but a number in my head would be, they try to save 40 or 50% of what they make for the future. So that's why you don't see a lot of Asians take a lot of vacations like Americans do. Americans take 2 or 3 a year, Asians take maybe 1. And they don't go on a week long, they go on like a weekend.
So I think that's very true. A lot of them do plan for the future. They don't like mortgage and debt, and we've talked about that, and thankfully that was something we pretty much agreed on before we got married, but I think it's very evident since we've been married. You know, we try to save up for what we buy. He thinks that's important, and I do too, but I think they don't like to have debt. They don't like to have a mortgage. They like to pay for things outright. And the main point with that is that they're willing to save up and wait for what they want.
An example would be, and we agreed on this, and actually my American parents taught me this, not to have a car payment. So the moment I paid off my car, I put the same amount of money for that car payment into a savings account. By the next time I need a car, the money would already be there, or most of the money would already be there, so we can go on and pay for the car and not have to have a payment on it. The mortgage side is a little harder to not have a mortgage because nobody has that much money. And I think this is a generational thing too. A lot of Americans like to be flashy. Us, not so much. Maybe the older generations where they have a lot more money, you see them drive nicer cars, BMW, Mercedes. But people my age coming out, we save off the money because we have a mortgage payments and stuff like that. And the biggest thing of all, which we kind of touch on this, is Asians are willing to wait on sales. They would wait on sales for a computer, they wait on sales for a TV, they wait on sales for food. Anything that they can wait for, they would. Americans, not so much. That's one of the things that we discuss most about our marriage, is how we spend certain money.
You mean in our marriage?
In our marriage.
Yes.
Yeah. For example, say if our tax returns, Margaret here would love to go and spend the money because...
No, wait. I said, spend half, save half. All I was asking for was equal opportunity with that check.
And
spend half, save half.
And what did I want to do with the check?
You wanted to give me 5, put 95 in the savings, which let me just say, I agree is best practice. No doubt. Best practice. I'm in full agreement of saving, and I 100% back that. 100% back that. I just think that we overlook the spending opportunity and we overlook supporting our local economy. And I think we should support the local economy. I think we should stimulate the local economy, and we stimulate with what is sitting right in front of me, waiting to be used. I just want to help people and their businesses. That is my deepest wish right now, is to be able to go out and help people.
Some of the reasons that Asians seem to be cheaper or more careful with the money is, one would be they came from a rough life in Asia, and here they, whatever they make, they want to be able to save that. Two, which I think you see in a lot of cases, is either they live here and they have another family in Asia, they have parents or siblings that they need to take care of, doctor's bills, build a house and stuff. So they're actually supporting two family. Fortunate for us, we don't have to deal with that because my parents are doing okay over there. But that's probably why a lot of Asians seem to be very stingy with their money. At the end of the day, I think you need to decide that if we're just being cheap or we being smart. Just think. If you don't pay for a car outright and you make a payment, you pay interest on that. You're just giving somebody free money.
So to sum it all up, save smartly, try to not live in the moment spending, and always be willing to see the perspective of the person beside you who is wanting to smartly invest, economy boosting spending.
At the end of the day, I think that because I was raised here, not all of those stereotypes are true for me. And I'm thankful that I have somebody like her, or else I would save a lot more money but doesn't enjoy it as much. Americans enjoy a lot more, Asians save a lot more, and there's a line in the middle, and I think she pulls me that way. I hope you enjoyed this stereotype video. Let us know in a comment down below if you think it's true or not. Are Asians cheap? Are they smart? Are Americans, live paycheck to paycheck? Do they spend too much money? Is it okay to splurge some? Yes.
That we agree on.
Yeah. And if you're new here, I'm glad you're here. And I hope you subscribe and come back if you've been here before. Thank you so much for coming back, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.
Now I gotta say goodbye.